Hello and welcome everybody to this special edition of SEO Bytes with Nitin. And today we'll be talking about SEO automation, which is how SEO meets automation. And we have three amazing experts with us. So we have two wonderful experts from the US, and it's still 6:30 in the morning for them. So massive respect. Thank you so much, Hamlet and Paul for joining us so early in the morning. And then we have Devi from London. So we will quickly move to the introduction, but before that, I just wanted to thank you all so much for amazing response once again. We got so many registrations, and you all showed amazing response once again. Thank you so much for that. And this topic is really, really close to my heart, and I have amazing guests. So I'm super happy. This is like, I think this is the day I was waiting for. And yeah, I think now without wasting any time, I would like to move to the introduction round because generally it takes like 5 to 7 minutes when people joining us. So maybe we can start with introductions and then we jump to the main topic for which you all are waiting. So yeah, and well, for the introductions, I think Hamlet and Paul, they're still sleepy. So maybe we can start with them so that they can just speak something. They can maybe, just do a bit of gymnastics and then they're awake. All right. So let's start with you, Hamlet. Good morning once again.
Morning.
And thank you so, so much for joining us. So a
Yeah,
quick introduction from you. Sorry, go ahead.
no morning. I just want to put a complaint because you put the calendar half an hour before, and I typically wake up half an hour before the calendar time, so I've been up for about an hour. So
Yeah.
so when we meet in person, you owe me one, a big one, right? So
Oh,
I'm
definitely.
here, sense, and really excited to be here. I founded a rank sense. I tweet a lot about automation, specifically with Python on Twitter. Check that out, and we're going to see some of the really exciting use cases about what's possible now and how that can save you a lot of time and money, right, and help you accelerate results. So excited to do that. And I have coffee, right? So you're going to see my eyelids a little bit sleepy, but I'm pulling them in with my coffee.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Hamlet. Big fan of your work and everything that you're doing for the industry. Thank you so much for joining us so early in the morning. Enjoy your coffee.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So the next sleepy person, that's Paul. Good morning, man.
Good morning. I'm 2 cups in with my coffee, so I'm doing a little bit better. I had a similar experience with the 6:30 versus 6 a.m. thing, though. Hi, so I'm Paul Shapiro. I'm currently the global director of technical SEO for Condé Nast and all the Condé Nast publications. And I've been working in automation pretty much from the beginning when I got into the SEO industry. So it's a topic near and dear to my heart. So I'm very happy to share any insights I have with all of you.
Perfect. So good to have you. And Paul, I remember we met for the first time in Seattle in 2015 during MOSCON. And at that time, like I was kind of new to the SEO world and I hardly knew anything about SEO. And when we were having this chat, so you were talking about some stuff you're working on, and I was like, wow, is it also possible? And the good thing is, this wow is still there because whenever you talk on different conferences, whenever I listen to your talks or check the kind of stuff you're publishing, the reaction is still the same. It's still wow. Is it also possible? So really happy to have you here. Thank you so much for joining, and looking forward to hear your thoughts on the topic.
Yeah,
All right.
I want to mention before her introduction that you have to blame Paul for all my writing on Python because Paul invited me 2018 for the Tech SEO Boost conference, and he's the one told me, "Hey, look, why don't you come and write about and talk about Python?" I'm like, Paul, what do you think? You think SEO is going to care about that stuff? And little did we know, right? So after that, I did that talk in 2018, right? It's been a roller coaster, as you can imagine, been writing about Python and all that stuff. So you have to blame or thank Paul for that, depending on what side of it you are about. Do we need to learn Python? Hey, yeah, we're learning Python. We're happy, right? So depending on which side you are, you have Paul to point either way, right? Positive or negative, right?
We're very glad.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would just thank Paul for that. because I remember last year, so one of my teammates, he was also asking about, this Python and SEO connection. And then he also wanted to start with that. And I share the same video which you just talked about. So Tech SEO Boost, your talk. And I think Paul also spoke about
He spoke
something
about
Python there.
introduction to Python, yeah, as well.
Yes, exactly. He spoke about introduction to Python. So I think I recommended that talk. And then there was one more talk that was from a different speaker. But yeah, I mean, these talks really help this person to understand, how SEO, why SEOs should basically learn Python and how can Python make their lives easier. Yeah, so thank you so much, Paul, for pushing Hamlet. And thanks, Hamlet, for accepting that invite and bringing so much uh, amazingness to this SEO community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So moving to the final expert we have for the today's webinar, that's Devi from London. So Devi, a quick introduction from you would be amazing as well.
Thanks, Nitin. So yeah, I'm quite excited to be part of this because, well, first of all, I'm Dewi and I am the head of SEO of the Soul Supplier. It's the UK-based breaking news website for very, very high heat or fancy sneakers, and where to find out how to buy them. So if you love your sneakers, I'm quite excited to be in this webinar because all you guys are so technical and you are, automation is at the heart of what you do. It is a massive fascination for me for a person who doesn't code. I actually came from a business background, so I always just kind of see the big picture. And then I try to find solutions. I try to kind of browse around publications or third-party solutions that I can use to help enhance like the solutions or solve any issues that I see in the business. So that would be my contribution in this webinar. So I hope I can contribute.
Lovely.
Well,
definitely. I think you are like one of the most important ingredient here.
Yeah,
And,
getting the buy-in, right? Getting the budgets approved to begin with, right?
absolutely, yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, perfect. Thank you so much once again, you three, for joining us. I'm really, really excited. And yeah, I can also give a quick introduction about myself. So I'm Nitin Manchanda, working for this Berlin-based travel tech called Home to Go as head of SEO. I love technical SEO. So I started as software engineer and now I'm taking care of SEO and not coding, sadly. I want to code. I do that maybe a few days a month, but not much. Yeah, but engineering coding is still in my blood, so that's why I'm really excited about this topic, and I love to work on this SEO automation hacks time to time. And yeah, really looking forward to hear our experts thought. And now I think it's time to start with the real stuff you all are waiting for. So without wasting any time, I would like to invite Hamlet for sharing a wonderful presentation where he's talking about the evolution of this whole topic. And yeah, and I won't reveal anything else. So yeah, Hamlet, stage is all yours now.
That's awesome. Are you able to see my screen? So I have my
Yes.
presentation here. Fantastic. So yeah, no, thank you very much. So exciting topic, near and dear to my heart. SEO meets automation. So let's see what I put together for you guys today, right? So Hamlet Batista, you can check out my work on what I tweet about automation and Python in my Twitter handle, Hamlet Batista. Good stuff. So what do I have for you guys today? So we're gonna quick presentation. We're gonna talk about why automation is now becoming so super important, right? Different levels that we can have with automation. What are the different things that we can do, and some use cases of automation, and talk about what are the roles of the machines and SEOs, right? Because with all these AI stuff happening, all these natural language computers doing, amazing work, what is our place on this, right? And we have to be concerned about it, for our jobs, let's talk about that. And also how to get started, right? So very simple, right? So I want to start from a familiar place, So probably you've seen this article from Microsoft. They published it last in January 30th, where they're good. The advertising group is providing the trends for the next 10 years, right? And this article was really interesting because even though it's from the advertising industry, they started looking, okay, let's look back of what has been the trend for the last 10 years to start thinking about what's going to be the next for the next 10. Right. It's talking about the faster internet, the that we have access, the connectivity, right? But now they're seeing something really important that is happening, the distrust of ads, right? People are distrusting ads. They're more trusting social connections. They're more trusting people versus spokespersons versus, paid influencers. This has been this distrust of advertising. And you see what are the key things that are important now for a brand is trustworthiness, consistency, uniqueness, right? People want to trust, right? And you see the same thing that they want that. Also, you see the increase on the ad blocking software as also the other way that they're trying to get rid of these ads, right? So there is this attack on advertising. Everything wants, that is going to be pushing more interesting organic ways to access the brands, right? So that's what I wanted. Before we talk about SEO automation, I want to see the bigger picture of what is driving this. What is driving the need for SEO? This need to be organic. This need to be trusted. This need to be useful. But the best part is, look at this. Microsoft is listing as soft skills, creativity, humility, empathy, adaptability, right? Transparency. But look at that, the hard skills. This is the Microsoft saying for the next 10 years, SEO, data analytics, right? Automation, copywriting, behavioral analytics. All this, we're in the possible best place, position ourselves for the next 10 years, because these are critical skills that are going to be incredibly valuable. SEO, data analysis, automation, super valuable, copywriting, behavioral analysis, all this stuff, it's the future. And this is not Hamlet Batista is telling you this, it's Microsoft is telling you that these are super skills. And the basis for that is that ads, people are not trusting ads. People are not trusting ads. They're putting blockers, and brands will need organic ways to access their audiences in a way that is trusted, right? So why automate SEO, right? So, okay, SEO is important, automation and stuff, but why? Why would we want to do that, right? We have a big problem in SEO, right? And I'd like to say, I have to talk a little bit about automation is SEO gets the budget that brands are, they're gambling. I call it gambling money. So if you compare the budgets that are spent on advertising, pay search, for example, and SEO is typically a fraction, less than 10% of the budgets that are spent on paid, right? And it's gambling money, right? What I say gambling money is the money that the company knows that it has to spend, but it's just the one that is willing to lose if it doesn't work. A big part of that, in my belief, is that it just takes too long to see results. By the time that we execute an SEO campaign, we're talking about months. Anything can happen in the middle, and it can be, attributed to something else. Very hard to see serious budgets like we see in advertising, where the ROI is immediate. You spend money and you see the return immediately. It's easy to spend it when you don't know for sure what the investment on SEO is, what is driving it, at a more granular level, right? And I think that the solution to speed up, one of the solutions to speed up, the results that we provide on SEO is machines, right? Leveraging machines so they get rid of the manual human element as much as possible, and we can deliver faster results. As a result of delivering faster results, my prediction is similar to the budgets going to paid advertising. If we see the results faster, from a financial perspective, it makes sense to invest on it, increase the budget, because you know that you're going to get the return back, right? So that is one of the reasons, right? You say, wow, we're talking about SEO automation when 95% of the work that we do in SEO is manual, right? And I want to talk about the levels of automation, right? There are two phases for that, right? Is what has been automated historically, which is been mostly reporting tools, gathering information and reporting has been the historical way that we automated. When you run a crawl with, a Screaming Frog, the crawl, Semrush, and you aggregate data, collect all the data, put it in a reporting interface, right? That's been one way, but if you look at it, it's still a big missing element if you want to accelerate results, which is a lot of the work that is done manually. So where is the work that is done manually right now? And we can split SEO tasks into 3 levels, right? We typically break SEO, which is technical, content, and promotion, right? You say, oh, how are you going to be able to automate things in these areas, right? Which are typically manual, right? That's where we're going to get into the exciting part, right? So let's show you first some examples of automation. I write a column in SEJ, and I will show you some examples of what is possible now, right? Not necessarily that we have commercial tools doing this yet, but this is possible. This is something that is readily accessible, because I like to spend time looking at the research that is coming out of academia and what we can do with it for SEO. Make sure that you tune in for my column. So one example, exciting, right, is technical. One example of technical automation is meta tag generation, right? Instead of writing meta tags, for example, image alt tags, instead of writing them manually, think about that. I use an example here where you can use computer vision to describe the image and have this done at scale. So image alt tags, something that is typically done manually, can be automated right now. And this is an article that I published last year. So this is definitely possible, right? Look at that. That was a computer, took an image and did this. Here's another example. Meta tags, titles and meta descriptions, right? This is another example that I published, right, earlier this year. I can take a text from the page and I can create an abstractive summary, right? And not only I provide you with the ways to do this, there is the code in my article that can show you how to do this as well. And look at that. This was using automation. So think about that. That's something that you typically have to do manually. Writing titles and descriptions manually is a lot of work. Now see something even crazier. A structured data generation. Think about that. A structured data is something that takes a lot of time and effort to do manually, even with combination of tools and people. Here we can use computer vision. I can take a screenshot of a page and use object detection to label the elements on the page that are structured data and pull from the image, from the screenshot, as a description. Here you see on this page from Amazon, I'm able, with this process that I describe here, it's very technical, like I'll tell you, it's able to label on the screenshot. And look at this screenshot where the box is even, there was a pop-up, it was too fast, that blocked the text of the page, the title of the product page, the product name. I was still able to grab that title, right? All this stuff, you'll be able to find it on my column. Really, really exciting stuff. And we're just talking about, technical SEO, right? Just I spend a lot of time, so I have more examples. You say, wow, content. Content is also something that we can now generate a lot of it, quality content, automatically. So it's another example that I show here. One way that you can do it, high quality, is generating questions and answers from text. So that was also another article that I published, including the structured data. This is also automation. So when we're talking about this is really exciting stuff that is possible to do now. And as I said, this is describing my article, something that is typically a lot of effort to do manually. This is completely possible right now, right? And this is not, the title should be content promotion automation. So here is content promotion, right? So one way that you can promote your content, right, is with data journalism, right? So when you produce high value content, shareable content based on research, like in this example from Fractal that did in collaboration with AppSumo, they use a model, a machine learning model, and use data that AppSumo provided, this collaboration, help them produce this massive piece that will be impossible to manually check 400,000 articles to gather insights that you can produce in a piece of content, link acquisition piece that any any journalist will want to feature on their article, especially if you give them the ability to break it out, right? Gathering insights at scale from your data that you already have to share with your audience. Really exciting stuff. And look at the insights that they learn from this information that wouldn't be able to gather it, manually, right? Really, really cool stuff. And you say, wow, all this stuff is cool. It's insane that the machines are doing a lot of the stuff that I'm already doing manually, right? Should I be concerned? Should I be concerned that the machines are going to take over, right? And I tell you, the good news is that for the time being, that's not going to be the case, right? So as long as you're not just focusing on doing manual tasks, right? So make sure that you're spending your time on the creativity, because one of the state of the art, the most impressive models that are right now, huge investments, is GPT-3. If you haven't heard about it, check it. But it has massive limitations. It doesn't have common sense, and it that part is still critical. Marketing, you need to have common sense. You need to have subtleties about your audience. Machines don't have that sensitivity about the audience. Don't have understanding about whether they're being offensive or anything. They don't have feelings. So that is still a big part of being a marketer, and they can make mistakes that humans wouldn't make, right? And a big part of that is, I'll tell you why that happens, right? That's why it's important to spend time learning about this stuff, because you understand what are the limitations, what are the best use cases of machines versus users. And I can tell you, because I do a lot of studies on this, is a big part of why machines are able to do this amazing stuff, but at the same time make basic errors. At the end of the day, the machines are just solving puzzles. It's just everything is numbers. Even though we're seeing text, we're seeing images, for the machines it's only numbers, and the machine's just given the task to solve a puzzle. Here's a puzzle, mathematical puzzle, solve it. And a lot of the times they will get it right, and when they get it wrong, when it's contextualized, it makes no sense. If you are looking at it from the mathematical domain, it makes sense. The machine will make the mistake, but when you translate it into the real world context, it's just insane, the mistakes that it makes, right? So that's exciting, right? I wanted to lead with that. And where do we get started? So this is a great presentation from Paul Shapiro that's here with us. Is Working Smarter, SEO Automation to Increase Efficiency. It's from 2017, and it talks about different ways that you can start without writing code with Kima. Paul can talk a little bit about it. Winston from Acronym wrote an article very popular on SCJ that talks about 6 tasks that you can now automate with Python. And have an article that I wrote about how natural language generation changes the game, about generating text from scratch using natural language generation, machine learning. And we have a weekly Python tutorial where, if you're interested in learning about Python, every week we post a very simple use case of automating some SEO specific tasks with Python. And we have some weeks we have guests that are just learning learning from scratch like you. Right? Make sure to check us out. We have also a platform that can do some automation if you want to do it, if you don't want to write code. So make sure to check us out as well at ranksense.com. So yeah, that's my presentation. Let's get to this. Yeah.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Hamlet, for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And everyone in the audience is really love this content. They're showing some great things about it. And a lot of people are asking about link to this presentation, or rather links to the articles you mentioned. So do you plan to share these links maybe via your Twitter handle or something?
Yeah. So I'll be posting on my SlideShare and also on my Twitter.
So guys,
I'll be posting this. I will upload it right after this. Yeah.
Perfect. So guys, you have the answer now. All right. So that was amazing. Thank you so much, Hamlet, for sharing everything. It was really, really inspiring. And I think there is a lot we can do with automation when it comes to SEO. So now let's move to the second round, which is panel discussion, where we'll be talking about all these topics. So Hamlet gave a brief about these topics, and now it's time to dig deeper and understand, what else can be done with the SEO automation. And we would also want to hear thoughts from Devi, Paul, so that we can see what are they doing when it comes to SEO automation. So, well, that brings me to the first question I have, which is about the use cases of SEO automation. What all can be done when it comes to automation and SEO? So, what do you think about it, Paul? What's your take?
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of interesting. Obviously, like large tasks. Hamlet said it. Things that are menial, I think, are those sort of the best candidates for automation. And actually, as you're doing your work, I find people sort of lose sight of what are the menial tasks, because you're doing them day in and day out. You don't always realize they're menial. So like what I recommend doing is any time you have this thought like, wow, this is really boring. I can maybe I can automate this. Make note of that, because people, I think, lose track of that.
Yeah, I want to mention as well that, if it's repetitive, right, it is very likely to be able to be automated. And also there is another, I should have mentioned this in my presentation. There is a cost and effort related to automation, right? So you said, wow, oh, now let me automate everything, right? If it's something that you're only doing once or twice, it's going to be a waste of time to put the investment on automate something that is not going to be something you're going to do currently. So we can fall in that trap, especially, we have bad engineering backgrounds. A lot of times we just do it because we enjoy the process of doing the work, not necessarily because of the outcome. So I think it's important to be mindful that even something that could be automated might not necessarily need to be, because it might be a waste of time unless you're just trying to get, some brain exercise doing the task. So I think it's just trying to be realistic, and there are tools that do a lot of good work in terms of automating the most common use cases, right? And my push with Python is not that you're going to replace work that is done by amazing tools like ones we use, but more about what are the specific use cases that are you and a few people that are doing that no tool is going to find the time to do it. It's not going to be something that they'll be interested in automating.
Has anyone ever seen the XKCD comment on this?
I was just thinking about putting that. I should have put it in the slides. Don't automate everything.
No, I mean,
what's the cost of time between the how long it takes and
Right.
the payback, right? Yeah, I'll see if I insert it before I upload it. Right.
I mean, from my view as well, if you just think about Google, like putting out a lot of updates about all these your money, your life, EAT updates, it is putting a lot of emphasis that they don't want human element to disappear. So despite how awesome automation and AI could be, it should really be there to, like you say, like Paul, Hamlet, you've got like really, really good point about this. You should really enhance and empower the human element of it. So, and it's almost like, okay, think, for everyone who doesn't know where to start, always think, from business perspective, what is the challenge and what part of that challenge that you want to solve is menial. So the menial then can be automated. The rest can be a mix of human elements. So I think, it's something that you have to find a sweet spot on.
Yeah, and I wanted to add as well. That's amazing. That also something that we, I'm showing this amazing stuff you can do, generating content, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So you have to, the human element, you need the curation layer, because as I said, machines can make mistakes. So And you can just be lazy. Oh, now the machine can generate the content, and I'm not going to even review it and let the machine make up facts and make stuff that are not true, or make the brand not look, correct. Google's not going to want that type of content in the index, right? So content that you don't have editorial, it's the same thing as you have a publication and you're just taking whatever guest post from these guys that are probably, you guys receive those link spams. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm a outreach, link provider, whatever, right? So everybody's getting spammed with these people, right? So you have to have an editorial, process where you are, even if you have using machines to help you and assist you with the content, to curate it and make sure that it's something that you'll feel comfortable publishing on this site. Because when you have that threshold, and if you look at a poll, back in the day when all this spam with links and all that stuff, that's how you could tell the sites that were good in the directories. When the directories were a thing in the past now, but the directories will take everything, right? Oh yeah, publish it. I'll post it. Whatever link you want, text you want, we'll publish it. Those were the bad directories because they didn't have an editorial process. The ones that at least make sure that you were, providing accurate information and you were not just being, a scammer or anything, right? That have that curation layer. That type of curation set them apart as quality sites, and those are the sites that Google wants to rank. So even if you're leveraging automation to do this stuff that I'm showing you, which is exciting, right? As I show you, look at even in the image captioning, the machine makes mistakes. Confuse a human address for a base on a table. You leave that in. It's not gonna present your site as a quality site because you're just pushing out whatever the computer put in place.
Yeah. I think it's important to know when to use automation versus not to use automation. So let's use the image captioning example. Mm-hmm. That makes sense more for an e-commerce site that has thousands and thousands of products, and maybe you can't customize your image alt attributes as well. But a website with fewer images, maybe more niche images, that would make less sense. So like for instance at Conde, we have something that does automatic image captioning, but it's secondary to our journalists actually filling in that field. So you have to think about when and how, in addition to just pure automation.
Exactly.
Definitely.
I mean, there's also a mix. If you work in a, let's say, e-commerce industry or fashion industry, like where I do, if you think about browsing products, browsing the clothing or items that you want, there are automated elements of that. If you think about, okay, there's the big data, the taxonomy things about the product. Okay, you want to know the details about the product, what it is made from, the material, the details of the dimensions. Those can be automated as part of the copy. But then, as Hamlet mentioned, someone needs to make it sexy. Someone needs to curate it, essentially, and someone needs to make the strategy of this automation works. They need to describe the product, and then you then start you have a sexy description of what the product, the taxonomy things that you can automate. And then you can even start thinking about automating the call to actions, for example. So if you think about, in-stock products, sold out products, it's indirect, right? Call to actions are not really SEO related, but they keep people on the site, which in turn is going to increase the SEO authority. So how do you keep people on site with these call to actions that you can definitely automate, depend on what the product status are, the user behavior on the site. There's a lot that you can do to sort of enhance user experience with automation.
Yeah,
definitely. That's a good point.
Yeah, and I tell you that outside of SEO, a big use of automation is personalization, right? So there's, especially in e-commerce, right? Personalizing at scale based on the behavior of the user on the website. In the article that I was showing from Microsoft, there was that example, behavioral analysis, understanding what the users are doing, and based on that, understanding what they want and personalizing the experience. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think if we give it a framework, so maybe I would just suggest to think about all the use cases of whatever technology you are planning to build. So maybe if you plan to build a text summarization kind of text engine for your company, there are multiple use cases of that. You can think about generating meta tags. You can think about summarizing the whole content to a quick summary or something. Or maybe you can even think about a quick summary that can be used for CRM, right? Or like quick notifications, especially in case of travel. So I'm in travel, so I can think about those use cases maybe. So the idea is whenever you're working on something, do not think about just one use case. Maybe think about all the possible use case, and then your engineers can build it in a way you can use it at multiple places with just tiny bit of configuration changes. So that can also make it a big giant machine that can work for you like in every part of the business. Not every, but like every part where it's possible. All right. So that was a good discussion on the topic. And when we spoke about the this particular thing, so Hamlet, Paul, and Devi, they mentioned about different use cases. And now I want to know about tools and resources that they use. For example, if you talk about text generation, right? There are multiple technologies, multiple uh, tools that they can use for that. So, but what is your go-to tool? And can you also give maybe an example of uh, the use of that tool for your use case?
Hmm.
Who wants to start then? Anyone can go.
Well, okay. So, as the one person who probably don't code, Python, to automate these things, or I like or code things to automate these things. I rely on third-party tools a lot to guide my decisions or to, you know, empower, let's say, the content team that I manage to make sure that they can produce content that people are searching for and that is effective and is going to rank. Like from a content perspective, for example, I love the SEMrush content templates. It's one really good example of SEMrush using AI to scrape the search results and to understand what are the commonality between every single listings that rank on the first page. And then they highlight, basically what you are trying to rank for, all the commonalities are around these keywords. So maybe your writer definitely wants to write in a sense that they want to mention these keywords, and they can curate it in a way that that makes sense and that the user will enjoy. So that's one thing that I, absolutely love. Another thing is, again, like the tool also got possibly the most keywords collection that I've known. You can link it to your landing pages. You can link it to your landing pages traffic. And then you can then spot, what are the keywords you're missing? Are there relevant keywords you're missing, or are you using slightly less popular phrase in a way? So these things are quite useful in a way to empower the content writers to write in the right way and to write content that will rank. I think from a technical point, there's a lot actually. Like for example, the topic of core web titles, that's really big in everyone's mind right now. So everyone is constantly obsessing about page load speed. So I'm starting to think, okay, I do not want to like keep thinking about it every day and check, because if you work in an organization where you keep developing new features, you keep developing new products, you're always going to worry about this. So you can then start thinking, okay, this is a menial task for me to keep, to keep checking like page speed insights, for example. Like, why do you want to check page speed insights regularly? That's quite menial. You can use a tool like Treo, for example. There is a tool like Treo. You can put all your pages in there, and then they will crawl daily all the score from PageSpeed Insight, and then you can get alerts if the numbers are dropping. You can sign up to GT Metrics as well, which will ping you as well if any score comes down, and then you can then get in touch with your developer around what needs to be fixed. Another tool that could be good, again, like it all depends on what your need is. You always need to think about what you haven't got, and it's menial, like what these guys mentioned. There is log management tool. Again, if you have a log management tool on your website, you don't have to keep clicking around your website to find 404 pages, for example, or 500 pages. The log management tool can then ping you a Slack message every time there is a spike in 404s or 500s. I rely a lot on third-party tools. Again, what else? Crawling tool like BeatCrawl, Spotify. They also have published, tools to check all the elements that you want on the page. You can specify the number of pages you want. And then they will do a daily crawl on any new build that your developer is publishing, even on your staging site. And so you will know ahead, even before a new build gets into live, whether they have issues. There's a lot. I mean, you can always get in touch with any of us. We'll probably have something to suggest to you. What about you, Hamlet, Paul? I've talked for a while. I think I've exhausted my list here.
Yeah. So Paul, you want to talk about key mine? You haven't
Nime.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So Nime, it's KNIME. It's an acronym in German and Deutsch. So I don't know what it actually stands for. Yeah, so it is a sort of a no code solution to automation. And by no code, it is also like code. So it's you're not writing any lines of code, but it's a drag and drop interface for what is essentially code. It's in the world of ETLs. Actually, it's not even meant.
Yeah, ETLs means extract, transform, load. Yeah, remember, people here not developers to know those terms.
Thanks, Hamlet. Yeah, so the whole idea is you load data in, you manipulate it, transform it in some way according to your specifications, and then you can output it however you'd like. So you drag and drop what are called nodes, and each of those nodes is functional in that it serves a very individualized purpose. And when you string them together, you get something larger that meets your needs. And it's nowadays I use it for testing ideas and doing quick analyses more than anything. At the company that I came from, the Catalyst is an agency. We used it in a production environment too. We had like this scheduling system, and it worked really well, sort of bridging the gap between SEO practitioner, analyst, and engineer. sort of everyone could get their hands in doing more sophisticated automation work using the platform. So I still use that a lot. I'd say I code in Python a little bit more nowadays for those tasks. I think we can get a whole discussion going about like Python libraries, because each one of the libraries is sort of a tool in itself.
That's what I don't want to drag us into that, because we could have spent hours and the whole day.
Let's not do that, maybe.
But one way that I want to bridge what Paul said and Dewey said is that when you use, we all use third-party tools because they're really good at doing a specific task, like if you're checking for web vitals, you're checking for errors, stuff like that. That's standardized and everybody needs to do that. So there are tools that do that, right? Now, the thing is that who runs the tools, right? So you have to run the tools. You have to get the output, the report from the tool and do something else with it, right? It's not just, nobody's just running the tool and that's it, right? So you have to do something. And a lot of times, who here only uses one tool, right? Raise your hand. Nobody uses just one tool, right? You have to use different tools for different things. So at the end of the day, you have to glue the information that you pull from different tools into one place, right? And that's where we're getting you into why what Paul mentioned, NIME and Python can help you automate that glue part that now you're doing manually. So you're going into the tool, pulling the information, another tool pulling it, and a lot of times everything is happening in Sheets or Excel, right? So you put information from one place to the other, put it in Excel, grab your information, and maybe create a report for your executives to say, or to instructions for your developers to take action, right? All that part that you're pulling information, put it in Sheets or Excel or Word or on the report that you're doing, that also can be automated. And that's typically the best place to start when you're getting to the next layer of automation, which is what Paul is mentioning. One way you can do it without code is that who here has used Zapier, right? Zapier is kind of like a glue of APIs of different tools that allows you to create workflows, right? So from here, I put it in a Trello card, or I put it in a Slack. It's kind of like that similar, right? With NIME, you can drag and drop, put elements, and you're kind of like building a puzzle that you're instructing, a customized workflow of how you want things done, and then output something at the end, right? Python allows you to do similar, but at a more granular level, and pretty much your imagination is the limit, right? That's the idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it surely does. And I think it explains pretty much everything about this topic. And yeah, you're right. I mean, if you talk about Python libraries, I think that's a topic in itself. And maybe we need a separate webinar for that altogether. So definitely, we're not going there. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this. And now, like a very mid-level question. So we spoke about a lot of automation and how it can go really good with SEO. But how can somebody who doesn't know how to code can start with this? So Devi, of course, answered some part of this question using some of the tools which are already there in the market. But yeah, I want to hear tips from Hamlet and Paul here. How would you suggest a newbie who doesn't know how to code to start with SEO automation?
Yeah, so I think I don't like to fixate on this, but there is a topic of like what programming language, right? Python, and Hamlet and I obviously are big fans of Python.
Yeah.
It has a lot of use cases for data analysis that have been built out over the years, and the syntax is relatively simple to comprehend compared to some other programming languages. But you don't have to do Python. If you have some familiarity with another programming language, a little bit of familiarity, you can continue with that. It's fine if you're using JavaScript or coding in C or Java or whatever it is that might interest you, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, well, I will mention that one way to start is a lot of us marketers, we work in Sheets, right? So you have Google Sheets. When you put functions, you're starting that process in the automation phase. When you take several columns, and do a formula in Sheets or Excel to combine the information from the formulas and put that. You're starting the process of the automation. So the languages can be intimidating, right? But they don't take a lot. Learning the syntax of a language, it doesn't take a lot of effort. I mean, I've been interviewing SEOs that have been learning coding, coming from copywriting, coming from content, and it took them a few weeks to get some control. It's similar. I like to compare it to riding a bike, right? So start first focusing on the problem, because there is an approach to programming that is for an engineer that makes sense to learn any cranks, anything from scratch. For a marketer, it's more about how do I learn enough so I am productive, so I can reuse code that Hamlet posted or Paul, or there's some code that I can make some small modifications and adapt it to my use case. And I'm talking to people like that at big enterprise, companies. They say, look, I saw an article and Search Engine Land about, Google Trends. I said, wow, I could use this. Spent a few weeks and adapted it. And now he's really happy with how he's been able to do. And they don't consider themselves experts, but they say, look, I learned enough so that I know how to modify, how to make changes and reuse stuff that already exists, because you're probably going to find it something that can put together you in that direction. Another thing you have also is in Google Sheets, you have AppScript, which is a version of JavaScript that allows you to create custom functions so that you can not just be limited by the ones provided by Sheets that can do the sums, the averages, stuff like that. You can writing a little bit of JavaScript, add more capabilities to your Sheets, right? So that you can actually start adding automation like that as well, right? Like calling a PageSpeed, Insights API. So somebody that provided an article that they wrote a function in Sheets that pulled the information directly from Web Vitals. Now they have the list of URLs, and now they just copy the function, and boom, they have all the values directly from there, right? So I think the motivation is super critical in addressing a problem that you have, a problem that you want to see solved, because that's going to get you power through the learning process a lot faster and deal with the frustrations initially that you have to face here. Follow also, people that focus specifically, because, Paul and I would typically try to, what we write, even though if you try to simplify, it's very advanced. So, there is Ruth Everett, Brittany Mueller, they're really exciting, influencers in the automation Python community, that they make this stuff super accessible and explaining in simple terms, because they're learning, as they go, and they're showing how they learned it, and I think Ruth is going to have a workshop, a Python introduction to Python for their analysis with Brighton SEO soon as well. I saw that in my LinkedIn. So yeah, it's really good stuff.
Yeah. So you mentioned Google Sheets being powered by AppScripts, and that is JavaScript. So that's, I think, definitely a good mention in terms of like which programming language. And I've been personally doing a lot more with that because Conde is a G Suite shop, so we use a lot of Google Sheets, and so I've been learning a lot from David Sotomano, who's like the Google Sheets like expert in the SEO community.
Yeah, David Sotomano, he's the Chuck Norris of programming and SEO. Yeah, and I that joke in that part. Yeah, he's amazing. Follow him and check out all this cool stuff he does in that.
And then in terms of like how to actually, I think we should mention how to actually learn Python. One tip that at least this is the case in the States, in the US, a lot of public libraries give you access to lynda.com, which is, I think LinkedIn actually purchased them. It's the same thing, but it's lynda.com and LinkedIn Learning. Tons of great classes on anything you can imagine, and I've taken many of them to learn various things over the years. So I personally like that as a resource, especially because it's free with many public library subscriptions.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
I think I have even learned a little bit of JavaScript from Lynda as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's brilliant. Yeah. Cool. That was exciting. Thank you so much for answering that. Now I think we have a lot of resources, and you implicitly answered a question which a lot of viewers are asking, which is about what should be the good source to start learning Python. So yeah, I think you already answered that. All right. So I think the question. So now we're talking about automation and a lot of things that people were doing maybe in last 5 years, or maybe this, some of the people still do that. So now they are machines can do those jobs, right? Which means there are some jobs which will be replaced by machines, maybe totally or maybe like partially. So what do you think? What are these jobs, and what are the jobs you think are kind of safe for SEOs? Or and so that maybe they can think about it, and they can think about leveling up and then be in that level so that they are safe, or they are basically smarter than ever before.
Yeah. I think copywriting is pretty safe. I don't know what you think, Hamlet. We were talking about sort of that emotive writing and being able to really capture the human element. I see Hamlet huffing and puffing, but
No, I tell you because yeah, I mean maybe the problem is that there is just too much data public. That's what I tell you, because the machines, if the data is out, there's a lot of information about there's copy, advertising, all this information is public. So I'm not 100% sure that it's going to be specifically copywriting or technical writing, or it's in a specific discipline. I think it's more about what are the cognitive elements of the work that you do, and how hard or easy it is for a machine to replicate them versus having a specific job, function, or task. Because what I think is our jobs is it's not that they're going to be 100% disappear, but a lot of the things that we do within our jobs are going to be automated, and we want to fill up that time with more higher cognitive level tasks that require more creativity, require more intuition about interactions with people, and the nuances of that interaction with people, and especially in for example within copywriting, I think the persuasive ability is going to be a human domain for a while, right? Understanding what are the nuances, so how do I motivate different type of audiences and people, and reading body language, reading people visually, what that's going to be hard for a machine for a while to do, especially if the data to be able to train a machine to do it is not public, right? It's not something that is in social media, it's not something that is in public information. That's how crazy, I think, things that are. But in terms of thinking about, the jobs, right? Think about the Industrial Revolution, right? A lot of jobs that people were doing back then, they disappear because, they're menial people, machines can do it better. But that doesn't mean that now all these people, they don't have anything to do, right? It's not what happens, right? The need for jobs, for doing tasks, for doing things that are better and better is infinite. I believe they're infinite because we're the ones that are demanding that. We're the ones that have higher and higher expectations. And if you look at the success of companies like Apple and Amazon, they understand that they're not just, oh, we did this and that's it, we're not going to continue to improve, right? Look at the iPhones. Every year they keep getting better, right? And that's been the case for more than 10 to 13 years, right? Because they say that our expectations keep rising. Every year we expect better, we're always expecting better. And that's the companies that are staying, the monopolies that we have right now that are huge, they understand that and they're continuing to improve. So basically that means that the bar is going to be raised by the expectations of everybody, right? So if we're doing things, we need to do them better. In order to do them better, right, we have to skill up, right? And we have to rely on machines to do the parts that are trivial now.
Absolutely.
How about business strategy?
Yeah, I think that's a good cognitive, if especially on SEO, right? I think the hardest skill in SEO is not technical. It's not, building links or specific tasks. The hardest part, and it's this hardest part in business, is winning. How do you win, right? How do you? It's not about following a checklist. That's what I tell people. Oh yeah, I did SEO. I completed this checklist, and I'm done. Yeah, that's not how you win, right? Nobody goes to a race. Olympians, they don't go to oh, I completed this checklist. A paid search advertiser doesn't say I completed this checklist, I'm done, right? Competition in business, in SEO, and anything needs a strategy to win. You're not going to win without a plan. You have to have a plan that plays on the strengths and the weaknesses of your business and the competitors in the marketplace. You have to find that gap and that opportunity where you can create value that is superior to other people, and it's impossible also to do it for everybody, right? So you have to pick and choose where you can win, right? Machines are going to have a hard time, for now doing that, right? So understanding for the specific business what is going to be the winning strategy, and that's why even we, our company, we offer SEO automation, but we see the human element as critical for success. The machine is not going to drive success for you. You have to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there are some parameters that you can control, and then there are some uncontrollable parameters as well. So people, like smart people who understand business and all the projects that you're working on, can probably keep some provision for these uncontrollable factors as well. Whereas if you automate completely everything, then that's something you miss, and which can basically create a big gap for you, right?
Yeah, and I forgot to mention this, and you know why? Because humans can improvise. Think about that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
We have the ability to improvise and adapt
Right.
to new scenarios, while machines, that's the biggest weaknesses they have. For the smartest machines, they have a hard time improvising and behaving, correctly in completely new scenarios that they haven't seen, or that they don't have enough information to adapt. And that's one of the biggest challenges on self-driving cars, right? Trying to face completely new scenarios that they haven't seen. And that's how people are making fun and tricking computers, showing something that makes absolutely no sense. And they label it completely, because they can't improvise, but a human, even a baby can do it, right? Can improvise. That's still like a skill that is human, domain.
Human are probably the only creature that can dream, like create like something out of nothing. Like for example, I was reading this book about sort of the history of human, and essentially like it's like when human are able to create money in order to solve the solution of trading, for example, even though actually to live you don't need money, like things like that. So hence why like I always see automation as something that will enhance the human element of things. It's just it's not necessarily eliminating jobs, but it's making everyone's life better, really. So there's no one tool that will solve everything. There's always like a tool that is good for one thing, a tool that's good for another thing, and then the human will just basically like pull that all together using a little bit of coding, and then being able to imagine a solution that would be very unique to whatever they're working on. I think that I think that's probably when they say this is a very, very hard skill that is like hot in 2020. That is probably the ultimate skill. The skill to imagine a solution based on various different data that you can collect in from various different sources.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very good point. Well, all right. I think with that, we are done for the day. But before saying goodbye to you, I would request all our experts to share their latest automation hack. and maybe they share their preferred communication channel as well, where people can ask their questions if their questions are not answered here. But I think you covered everything, so maybe I don't have any open question, to be honest. Yeah, but still I would request you to share your preferred communication channel. Maybe there's some open questions, some burning questions on the topic that people want to catch you with. So yeah, maybe we can start with Hamlet.
Yeah, my favorite, I already shared that one. And I'll be speaking at a couple of conferences next week. One is I will be sharing generating content from reviews, from user reviews. So that's the first time I want to be sharing that technique. So I'm really excited about it. It's called State of Search. Now, next week I'll be, I'll be sharing that technique to create FAQs, original content from product reviews. So very useful for e-commerce sites. And I'm going to be doing a keynote on We Love SEO. I'm also going to be sharing an exciting topic about automating duplicate content using by combining multiple tools. I'm doing a combination of tools that are working completely like if it were one tool. So that's also another really cool technique that I'll be sharing next week in 2 different conferences.
That sounds so amazing.
Yeah, really cool. And I'll be posting, I'll upload my presentation to SlideShare. I found, Paul, the cartoon. I added it as a slide. So you have it there.
Wonderful.
And yeah, and I will tweet it. I will be tweeting it on my timeline. So you'll have it shortly. So Hamlet at Hamlet Batista. So on Twitter, you'll be able to see it soon. So you check it out. Matt as well.
Thank you. Devi, do you want to go next?
Sure. I mean, not as fancy as Hamlet. I mean, I'm excited to watch all your other sessions, and I'm now very inspired to learn Python.
You see, Paul, and we didn't do it on purpose. We promised, right?
No. I'm inspired now. Very inspired. But I would say my hack is simpler. If you think about, I'm looking at this from an e-commerce standpoint, I guess, or any sort of sites with a lot of listings. If you have an expired listings, or if you have a sold out product, definitely start thinking, okay, the first thing a lot of people think about sold out products or expired products is, if we keep showing these, it's, the user is going to bounce. How about if you flip it and think about, okay, how do I make this as a bait to get people to engage better on the site with call to actions? So that's probably one thing that you definitely want to think about. I see a lot of sites doing it, when there's sold out products, they create some copies in which they say, don't ever miss a product again, or we'll let you know if there is a restock, sign up. And then you can then basically use all your other channels to get people back on the site. That's how you get these things to work. So I think, this is one hack that I found really, really works.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Especially capturing emails, right? That's what you mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really cool tactic.
Yeah. I guess I'll go. So, in terms of something like a little bit more granular, so like I'll write a lot of Python scripts, but they're not very accessible to like other people in the company. So I've started using, and I'm sure Hamlet, you've played with this, Streamlit. It's a Python library.
Yeah.
And it basically makes creating like web UIs for your Python scripts like super, super easy. So I've been converting some of my like little Python scripts over to Streamlit apps. And it's awesome. In terms of like actual applications, what have I been doing recently? We have a lot of publications with that are very disparate, but that sometimes there's some commonalities in content. So I've been working on examining content clusters between the different publications, and then for like a little bit less technical of an automation, for looking at markets we may want to expand into, I've been using Google Sheets with the Google Translate function that's built into Google Sheets, and combining that with like the Semrush API to pull search volume. So there's a few different things.
Wow, that sounds good. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much once again for joining us. It was really a pleasure having you. And I'm your host for the day, Nitin Manchanda. And I'll also talk about a couple of hacks that I'm working on. So I'm working on content generation and translation. So I'm using machines. But unlike Paul, I'm more inclined towards this machine called DeepL. So that is giving me better results for some of the European languages. So I'm testing that at the moment, and then content generation as well. And then like non-SEO hack, but I recently built a Chrome extension for my team because we have a lot of internal tools and we also use some external tools. So there were some patterns. And as Hamlet mentioned before, I'm from engineering background, and I observe these patterns, and wherever it's possible, I try to automate that. So I observed some patterns, like they were like, for example, some IDs that was there in the code, in the page source that we were using to search something within our internal tool base. So I just fetched these IDs using JavaScript, and now this extension does everything for you. So you just have this extension, click on it, one click, you're on the page that you were looking for. So that is saving a lot of time for everyone in the team. So I guess, so we estimated roughly, it was just a casual conversation. So it saves half an hour for every single teammate every single day. And that's like 2.5 hours per person. And if you talk about a team of 10 people, that's a lot of hours. So I'm happy about that. All right. With that, thank you so much once again for joining us. Have a nice day, and